Good morning, Mr. Wallace.
Good morning, Mrs. Worthington.
Today we're talking about school visits.
Love school visits.
Did you like school?
I loved recess and lunch.
Sounds like Tom.
Look, I did. I liked primary school, high school. Once it's a bit like when I used to play sport. When I played like C grade cricket, loved it. I'm with my mates, we're having a good time, still trying to do our best. We're kind of having a bit of fun as well. As you go up the grades and it gets more serious, it's like, just relax a little bit, people. Same with school. You started doing all this sort of serious stuff and learning primary. If I could go back to primary school, if I could be like 9 years old again, I'd be the happiest man on earth. That would just be the best. I loved it. So, yeah.
Why does that not surprise me that mentally you haven't moved on from being a 9-year-old? Maybe that's why you're so great at writing books for kids.
Well, it's funny because that's the age that when I write, that's if I just sit down to write a story without thinking about who it's for, I reckon 7 to 9 is the age it's going to come out for naturally. So, yeah. And it's my favorite age group. When I worked in schools in aftercare and stuff, sort of, I reckon grade 1 to 4. That's my favorite age. So, yeah, no, I did like school in primary school, but then always, just hanging out with my mates, recess and lunch. That was the best. So, how about you? I know you had some ups and downs at school.
Yeah. So, semester 1, year 5.
That was the one you liked?
That's it. The rest I wasn't really keen on, but I had a really great semester in year 5.
Right. Why was it good?
I started a new school,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't start getting bullied until semester 2.
Oh.
So, yeah, that was really great. I had a really great 6 months. Fabulous. But, yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of the socials at school, but I loved learning. Like, if it could have just been me in the classroom, dude, sign me up. And library at lunchtime was always loved going to the library at lunchtime. So that were my big things. So when you go back and do school visits now, might seem a little bit of a weird question. Do you always look for the kids in the audience who were you? Like, do you recognize, like, oh my goodness, that's the little me?
Yeah, they're usually the ones I'm telling to be quiet.
Yeah. The ones who are you and like judging you about your jokes, going, dude, seriously.
It's funny because pretty much every girl that I've gone out with over my life has just gone, we would have hated each other at school because I was a little kid. I was actually a very shy kid, but when I was with a couple of my friends, I could get chatty, and I loved getting a bit of a laugh and everything. And if there was a little orange peel food fight thing going on, I would be in it like straight away. And a lot of the girls and friends and everything else, they are that sort of the bookish type ones who like, which I love being that now as well. I love learning now. I didn't as much when I was at school, but I do now. But I didn't even ask a question. I don't know if I do or not, actually. I don't know if I look at them and go, probably just the kids I think, you're a cool kid. They must be the ones that were like I was when I was at school, I assume.
Of course. The coolest kid is like, oh yeah, dude.
I was the biggest suck up to teachers as well. Like, I was shocking.
Were you a dobber?
Ooh. I don't think I was, actually. I was a sooky kid. Like, if something happened, I would probably be more likely to crack it and cry and go off on my own than dob on them. No, so I wasn't a dobber. How about you?
No, I wasn't a dobber. But yeah, I was always, same. I would be just off doing my own thing. Acting out some play that is just popped into my head. People would be like, what is she doing?
What is she doing?
Weird.
Why is she doing different voices?
Weird. Why is she like flapping around that tree? I don't know why I didn't have many friends. Can't figure it out. So anyway,
they tried to get.
Let's not dredge up too many of those lovely traumatic,
Yes.
post-traumatic stress disorder. How do you get school visits? What is your secret?
It built up over a number of years. So it initially it was a little bit tricky. Initially, what I did when I found it hard was go to family and friends, and because everyone knows people who work in schools, or I mean, not at the time they weren't, but in my family, my grandmother was a school teacher. Both my parents were school teachers. My wife's aunties were school teachers. Like, we all know people. We got friends who are teachers. So I totally mind that and just said, can I come out, do some practice, blah, 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 which would then lead to other things as well. And some of those schools I went to 3-4 years in a row, which was great as well. Doing markets was really good. I would meet, teachers love markets. Teachers and librarians love markets. And so, yeah, you'd meet lots. And they would come there and they would ask often. They'd say, do you do school visits? Which is awesome. Other things I've tried, a couple of things I tried that didn't go well. I didn't email out one time, and I emailed, and this was early on, so no one knew who the hell I was anyway, but I emailed, I think 100 schools, which took a while to look them up and email and everything. I got one response, which said, we'll think about it for next year. I went, that's it. Never doing that again. I did mail outs. Mail outs were good. I would mail out a copy of one of my books and a little letter introducing it and a flyer. And that got a pretty good success rate. Not massive, but even if I emailed 30, 40 schools and got 4 or 5 schools, or if I mailed, and got 4 or 5 schools out of it, that's great. That's sort of 15%. I drove round to schools at one stage and would sort of go there on the pretense of selling my books to the library, and I'll see if they want to buy them. And which was good. I sort of got 40, 50% of schools would buy some books, but then I got to get school visits out of it as well. That was very time consuming. It was good, but very time consuming. Yes, I've tried lots of different things. And then recently on Facebook, I put a thing out, which was good as well. That was offering a free visit to do a book launch, to launch my book. But that got a good response as well. And that's a whole other topic, is whether you should do free visits or paid visits as well, which I actually got in trouble from. When I started, I did free visits because I was selling my self-published books. So I was still earning a bit of income from it, but I wasn't charging for the actual visit, because in my mind, I was like, A, it's practice. B, if I'm charging the same as Andy Griffiths, who are they going to choose? If they're paying $600, they're going to pay him, not someone they don't know. So it was a way for me to get in and get known. But yes, one quite well-known author who now I love, like we're quite good friends now, but she still reminds me of the time when we met. I was at a market and I'd spoken to this guy who turned out to be a husband, and I was chatting and said, and he goes, oh, do you charge for school visits? I said, no, I'm just, blah, blah. And suddenly this woman came thundering over to me like 10 minutes later. You don't charge for school. I won't say any names, but let's just say that no, I won't. But
don't make me edit it out.
No, that's right. And look, and she's right in a lot of ways, because we can get devalued as artists, and a plumber doesn't go out to fix plumbing for free and things like that. But I also believe that even doing an internship somewhere is really important for building up your skills. And for me, that was my internship, and it wasn't meant to sort of undermine other authors or devalue it, but it was really important for me to get started. But what I did notice is once I started charging for school visits, and I started off just charging whatever the sort of substitute teacher rate for a day was, that suddenly I was doing exactly the same amount of schools each year, but I was earning $10,000 more. I'm like, well, that makes sense. Budgets and
yeah, but it's work experience, isn't it? You just got to think of it as work experience. And there's so many different professions where you will go and do work experience for free. First of all, to find out if you like it, because school visits isn't for everybody. There's some people who just don't do school visits because it's just not their thing. So you don't have to do school visits, do you?
No, of course not. I mean, I think for me, it was advice I was given early on was get amongst the kids, build up that relationship with children, teachers and schools. And that would be a really important base to build a career from, which has been proven correct. And So it's really helpful. It's really helpful career-wise, I think. I found it helpful for testing my work, and I am super shy. And so when don't laugh.
Oh yes, I can tell. You're so shy. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
No, but as a kid I was, and my first school visit, I had the lump in my throat. I was sweating. My voice was shaking. I was so nervous. And so in terms of building up that presenting or those presenting skills and just talking more good, they were really the bestest. They were really, really good for that. So for me, it was important to build my skills, get instant feedback on my work, what worked, what didn't, and to build a career. So look, in saying that, you probably should do school visits. But a lot of authors are quite introverted, and that sort of thing is terrifying to be speaking in front of 100 kids. Like it's not for everyone. I don't do high schools anymore because I've done them a few times and have not enjoyed any of them.
Yeah, I don't mind high schools, but yeah, you have to be super thick-skinned if you're going to talk in front of a group of 14 and 15-year-old kids. I had one of them, like, I was talking and they got their hoodies and they pulled their hoodies down over their faces and zipped them so they could just, like, their nose and their mouth was there. And I took that as a really good sign. Like, they were just so into what I was saying that they didn't want to be distracted by their friends. So they were just like, dude, don't talk to me. I'm in the zone. I'm listening to this chick. Like, she's amazing.
Like putting blinkers on a horse. Yep. They were just
they were just all over it. Do you have a speakers agency that you use?
I do have two. So I'm with Lamont Books, which they started up 2019, I think. So that's quite a new one. And I'm with Creative Net as well. So initially I did it all myself, but then getting the agency was really great. It was Creative Net first, then Lamont. Because with all things with books, I think it's good to have different streams. Which is why I like self-publishing as well as traditional, and then getting visits myself, but then also getting visits through the agencies. If each is sort of 10, then there's 30 visits for the year. But some of them are done without me expending the energy. So yeah, I do. How about you? Are you with an agency?
Yes, I'm in a couple of agencies. Exactly what you said. Like, you got to have so many fishing rods in the water. It's, same with income streams. Like, you got to be doing lots of stuff, but that wasn't until I'd kind of already proven myself with school visits. Like, I didn't have an agent until I was already pretty much out there doing them. Anyway.
I was about 6 years in, I reckon, before I got an agent.
Yeah, you do need to kind of, like you were saying, you've got to go out there and experience it, do a couple, get it so that it's a bit of a well-oiled machine, so that you're just showing up, doing your job, and it's still a bit scary, but it's always get a bit nervous before you start. But I think when you do it often and you're thinking of it as, well, this is part of my job, this is why I started writing for kids in the first place, because I wanted to come and talk to kids and read them the books. And what's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you on a school visit?
Well, first, I totally agree with what you said in terms of that. This is the reason we do it. Like, one of my things is I want to influence, entertain, and inspire as many kids as I can, and obviously through the books. But in the school visits, you can be doing that to potentially 1,000 kids in a day if it's a tutor. So I think that directness, and you're right, it still can be a bit nerve-wracking at times, but they reckon that feeling of nervousness and excitement is apparently actually the same feeling. It's just the meaning we put onto it. So it is excitement as well. And it's such when you're in there doing a visit and you're into it and the kids are into it and it's one of the biggest buzzers. Like, it just gets it gets me inspired to just go and write more. I want more of that. I want my present and doing the practice presentations and building it up before you go to an agency as well, even if you're getting paid as that. Often an agency might say, okay, well, we'd like to come and see you do a visit so that we can decide. So yeah, I think you're right. Getting it as that well-oiled thing, and it will still always be adapting and changing, and new bits will come in. But having a sort of base thing that you can do is great. Okay, weirdest thing. Weirdest thing. Well, probably some of the questions have been quite interesting. One of my favorites was I'd done a session and felt like I'd absolutely nailed it. Like, felt like I'd just given this best session. It felt like the kids were like so there. It was like, I think it was preps in grade 1 or something, but it was a little preppy kid. We're sitting there saying, okay, is there any questions? And he put up his hand like, yeah, what's the question? He's like, why are your ears pointy like an elf? And I was thinking, you haven't listened to a word I've said. You're just looking at my ears the whole time.
He's trying to figure out if you're actually an elf or not.
Yeah. And it was funny because I said, oh, it's because I'm half elf. He went, okay. And totally, like, that's all I need to know.
If you had just kind of cleared that up at the beginning, that would have been a lot easier for that poor child. Like, can you just maybe start the school visits? Like, okay. So for those of you who are wondering, just let's get this out there. I am part elf. So, you know, move on from that.
Focus. Yeah, try
and focus on what I'm trying to say.
I'm looking at my ears, my pointy ears. Yeah, so they're always fun. The questions are fun, and preps are fun. I mean,
preps are so much fun. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Herding cats, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and especially they get in a little bit of a one of them goes, oh, so I've got a dog. It's like every hand goes up. I got a dog. My friend's got a dog. I've got a dog. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever.
My mum's name's Michelle.
Yes.
Every single time.
They do it in my sessions as well. It's really weird.
and it's funny because, you know, the teachers like the teacher's going, okay, that's a comment. Let's try and ask a question. Has anyone got a question?
Yeah.
Do your dogs live inside or outside your house?
And the teachers
That's a great question. But let's maybe ask a question about me being an author of one of my books.
Oh, that's funny. See, I just totally go with it. I know.
Oh my gosh. And it's just always like, how old are your kids?
Yeah. Do you get asked how old you are a lot?
Yes.
What do you have like a go-to answer, or do you just say your age, or do you like play around with it a bit? Or
I used to just say my age, but now it's just embarrassing because I'm older than a lot of the kids' mums. So I just say, oh, well, because actually because I'm actually part fairy. I'm 132 years old. I'm not sure how much that translates to in human years.
Oh, that's a good response. Sure.
Yeah, so that works really well. But I've had question comments, I think, are my famous thing. Like one was, I thought books were written by dead people. It's like, well, there are lots of books written by people who are now dead, but they didn't write them when they were dead. They wrote them when they were alive, and then sadly they are no longer with us. But I think that one of the best thing about author visits is that kids realise that authors are real people and that it's a job. Like a lot of kids don't even realise that they're written by, like, they just kind of, it's like when you go to the supermarket and you get milk or you get sausages or you get steak, you don't think too much about where it comes from. Same with a book. You don't think that it was actually written by somebody. It's just a book.
Absolutely. And I've had ones where I've been like halfway through talking about my books, doing this, and be like 20 minutes in and you go, wait. Did you write these books? Because it doesn't clear out. It doesn't click that someone wrote them. That's like
just or did you write Pig the Pug?
Yeah.
That wasn't me. Did you write Piranhas Eat Manna? No.
You Aaron Blavey.
That wasn't me. Oh yeah, and then my favourite thing that ever has happened at a school visit is that afterwards, you know, when they're walking out, sometimes, you know, that there'll be a few that come up to you and chat to you. And I had one little preppy girl say to me, "You're much prettier than Mem Fox." And I was just like, thanks. Any comment like books, like, do you like any of my books? But you know, I'm going to take that compliment.
Yeah. Totally.
Like, and then I'm just thinking maybe I need to put that, like,
that's right.
You know how you get like the recommendations. And on the back of your books, you can put, you can put Amazon bestseller, or, you're like,
Prettier than Men Fox.
yeah, the new J.K. Rowling, prettier than Mem Fox. Poor Mem Fox. I think Mem Fox is pretty.
He is pretty. I mean, you're prettier, but the kid was bad.
Well, it's a matter of opinion, isn't it? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. This little girl she was only 5, so.
Oh, that's great.
Amazing. So I love school visits, and I think that, yes, if you're going to write for kids especially, you need to be okay with doing school visits. And it's something, I talk to people who want to write for kids. I say, that's awesome. So happy that you want to write kids' books. So how are you actually going to go and share these books for kids? Are you comfortable going into bookstores? Are you comfortable doing school visits? Are you happy to have little children tell you that they think your book sucks without reacting? That's a huge thing that you've got to think about before you start writing for kids. Do you think?
Absolutely. And it comes down, I think, as well about why you're writing for kids, and yeah, just that idea that we can kind of write a story and then that's it. It's done, and we're going to retire to Tuscany, and that might happen. But I think it's that idea of if you want to entertain kids, that's not necessarily just the book, especially kids, even adults. Like, adults love going to book talks by authors. And I went to a talk by Mem Fox, actually, and it was just for adults, and there was probably 200 people there. It was packed. They love it. So I think that it's an, as well as, again, it's to do, the book is amazing. To get a book done, get it out there is amazing. And it can, it can change lives by having that book, but the effect can be more than doubled, I think, if you can get in front of the kids and let them see you as a real person who can write a book. And even just those kids who love writing, but maybe they're in a really sporty school or area or something like that, where writing's not or writing books isn't seen as something that can be a career. That can be so inspiring for those kids to keep going with it, I think. And kids who think they can't write or read or draw or don't like books, it can change their life.
Yeah, totally agree. It's so much more than just going out and flogging your books at schools, isn't it?
Definitely. When you do your visits, is yours more presentation or workshop, or what? How do you sort of what's the word? How do you sort of set up your hour or your session or whatever?
Yeah, so mine's more of giving tips and tricks to kids who don't really like writing. So I assume that the kids who love writing are gonna be all in, but I kind of have my target audience as kids who find writing really hard, because I was actually really, really bad at spelling. I'm still really bad at spelling. And so when I would write, I would change, I would have the most awesome stories up in my head, but when I wrote them, I would change the whole story to only use words that I knew how to spell. So until I started at my new school, I was actually almost in special needs for English. Only because I was so paranoid about making a mistake that I would not write words that I didn't know how to spell. And it wasn't until I was in grade 5 that my teacher actually picked up on that. And my grade 6 teacher was the one who kind of took that and ran with it. And so that's kind of, when I think of that, that's my basis for every single, it doesn't matter if they're prep all the way up to grade 12. It's just about getting the story out of your head and not judging yourself from it. And I also do a lot of pre-work and email the teacher before I go to a school visit to make sure that there's not something in particular. Because I've had emails from schools before school visits where it's been, look, the teachers aren't super into authors coming because it's just really, taking time out of the class, and, and they found that it's actually putting more work on them. So one thing I do is almost email I think are they called coordinators now? They're called curriculum coordinators. Yeah. And I say, what do you want me to do? Like, what is it that you're doing at the moment? What is the purpose for me to do this? And be really clear before I even go to school, so I know when I'm going there that I'm not going to have a teacher sitting there going, oh, you know, this is a total waste of time. Because that for me is like, I would hate. Like, for me, teachers are like rock stars. I'm like, am I doing a good job? Am I doing the right thing? Like, I want them to like me. Please like me.
Yes, I love it. And two things that brings up for me. One, you're absolutely right. And if you can, even if you have kind of set things that you do when you go to a school, if they say we're doing narratives or we're doing rhyming or if you can sort of do your thing, but sort of work it so that it's related and that they can then go on with it because the kids are pumped, that's awesome. But also the rock star thing, I agree. I think teachers are amazing, especially in the last couple of years. Like my friends who are teachers, what they've done has been incredible. But when authors go to schools and they get that idea that kids don't necessarily like books or reading these days, because you're treated like a rock star by a lot of the kids. Like, it's amazing. They're so into it. They want your autograph and they want to talk to you. And like, it can be quite amazing when they do it. So yeah, that going into schools, you can see how it affects the kids and how they get so excited by it. It's really cool.
Okay, last question. How are you coping with online school visits as opposed to face-to-face school visits?
So last year, when the pandemic hit and it looked like it was going to be virtual, I was I'm not doing virtual. That won't be the same. Blah, 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 blah. I did virtual because, you know, I kind of had to. And so it took a couple to get used to it. I think there's positives and negatives to it. I do like it for a number of reasons. One is, well, there's no travel time. So when you finish, you don't necessarily have an hour drive in the morning to get home. It's like you're just done, which is really nice. And also what's good is the distractions kind of come out of it, because I did quite a few when the kids were all at home, and so it'd be on their own screen, but the teacher would just mute everybody. And so you don't get kids yelling out and distracting and things like that. You don't have to sort of do well, not discipline is not the word, but like sort of that crowd control. So I think they're really good for that as well. And then they can just unmute to talk. And the kids were actually fantastic. They knew when they could unmute and what they could do. They were really good. And so yeah, it was really good for a few reasons like that. But what I found hard, especially with what I do when I'm at schools, is it is very high energy. It's very interactive. It's very bouncing off each other's energy and getting those stories from the kids, or getting laughs from the kids, or them laughing at what they say. And it kind of builds that was gone. And I remember the first one I did, I told this joke, which I've been telling for a couple of years, and it was just obviously dead quiet because it was muted. I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying.
They don't like me. They don't like me.
So then I realized you have to actually look at their faces and you can see if they're smiling. And so it's a very different energy, I find. So I find that I up my energy when I'm doing them to try and build that energy that I feel is kind of missing because there's not that face-to-face connection. So look, I think there for me there's plus and minus. I've been back in schools for a couple of weeks at the moment this year, and it's been awesome. Like that, I really do thrive off that live contact. But in saying that, I just think that having that available last year and having that available to do those sessions with the kids, and even having schools where they've got the big interactive whiteboard, I can be up on that. They're sitting in their class and I'm doing it. It takes the interactivity out, but we get to do it. Like it's amazing. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I was kind of doing it anyway because I was doing the Microsoft Educator program. So I was doing lots of ones like US, UK, Philippines, India, everywhere. So I kind of already had an idea about it, but that was more of, like you said, it's not interactive. So it's more like an author talk where you tell them a bit about that. I find it's really hard to engage them more than half an hour on Zoom. Like doing an hour is tough, where like if you're kind of face to face, you can judge it and you can go, all right, everybody get up now. Come on, we're not going to sit down anymore. Let's get up. Let's, shake it out. Let's do this. Let's do that. Especially with the preppies, like getting them up and doing stuff and then sit down and get up and do stuff and sit down, because otherwise they're just like lying on the carpet or like
rolling around.
Yeah, like touching each other's laces or, doing stuff. And then the teacher's just like, what's going on? Like,
exactly. Which is why that 5 minutes talking about their dog is really important.
It is. It's important at the end that they get to tell you that. They've been busting to tell you since you mentioned it in the first 5 minutes, and that's all they've been thinking about for the last half an hour. So I think there's good things and bad things, because, obviously you can connect with kids on the other side of the world, but I don't think anything beats face-to-face school visits.
I agree. Yeah,
I don't think they're going anywhere. I think even when like we did all of the courses and stuff last year about, we have to learn how to do online visits, and everyone's like freaking out, like going, oh my God, we're never going to be allowed into a school ever again. It's like that, we are essential workers. Like, I don't think that authors will be banned from schools, because kids get too much out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the flow and effect of it is so huge, like books being borrowed from the library. And, I hear teachers saying, NAPLAN results go up after author visits and things as well. So yeah, it's a massive, massive flow and effect. And you're right. I think it's a nice add-on. And obviously for things like overseas, it's incredible. It opens up the whole world to do visits to anywhere, or even to, outback Western Australia or somewhere like that you can't get to. You can do a virtual visit to there, and so it opens up these great opportunities. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that it probably opens up the opportunity to do more, I reckon, as well. Like I find I do about 50 a year in person, and I find that's enough. But it does kind of feel like virtual, you could probably do more, I reckon.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's still very draining. I find it really draining. Like, they're like little energy suckers. By the end of the day, I'm thinking, how do teachers do this?
Exactly. But we probably pace ourselves a little bit less as well, I think.
Yeah.
My theory is the last session should get all sessions should get exactly the same energy as the first session, and the first session should get about 120%. So I don't pace myself at all. But I don't know if you find this. I find when I'm there and doing it, perfectly fine. Like, don't feel any, but as soon as I get in the car to go home, I'm like, collapse in the car. But while I'm doing it, that kind of adrenaline kicks in, and your energy kind of even rises a little bit, because they're great. And when they do get excited, when they are telling stories, or when they have created something, and they get, because I do a bit of drawing with them as well, and they'll draw and they get so excited, and that gets you excited about it as well. It's I could talk about this for hours.
I know.
We need a part two.
One last thing, because I just thought of this, because I've got a school visit, a week-long author in residence, not next week after. Do you have anything you use as like an attention thing? I've been seeing on TikTok lately all of these teachers that do all these kind of call and response things, like they go, hold up, and the kids go, wait a minute. So they've got kind of this thing. What's your crowd control technique?
Good question. So you obviously, and you see lots when you go to schools as well, and there's ones where the teacher holds up their hand, or I'm not a fan of the clap. That feels really patronizing to me.
I know.
It works, and they do it. And others like hands on heads, hands on shoulders, hands on nose, hands in lap. Like, then there's waterfall and stuff. There's lots of different ones. Sometimes I'll ask the teacher or the kids, and I'll just say, what's the thing for the school? What do you do? And use that, because the kids know it, which is good. But my one that I'll generally use is just countdown, especially when it's quite loud. I'll just go 3, 2, 1, and they just go. They'll just kind of go quiet, or I'll just go eyes this way, and they're good to go. So that's probably mine. I did at the start sort of go and stop, but they would just get too excited by that. So that didn't work. How about you? What's yours?
So I kind of check with the teacher as well, and usually you can tell, because just before you start, the teacher will use something to get their attention. So I kind of use that. But I use it like if I'm doing the pirate one, then I have got a pirate thing that we do. I can't even remember what it is now. But it's almost like you read the room a little bit, and then obviously what you do with the preppies is different than what you do with the bigger kids. But I really want to try some of these ones that I've seen on TikTok, and I'm too shy. Like, I just want to. Some of them are so cool, and I'm just like, oh, that's amazing. So yeah.
And when there is a cool one, when there's a teacher who does a cool one with the kids like that, sometimes I don't know if it is, but when I'm in, I just go, oh my god, that's so cool.
I know.
Awesome.
I just think teachers are cool anyway. So
yeah, it's pretty incredible what teachers do and what they give to the kids. It's amazing.
Yeah.
One thing I find with teachers that I find, and this is a 1% of the time, if that. But so obviously, if it's might be a bit of a rowdy class, and I'll be sitting in the library or whatever waiting, and I'll hear the teacher outside going, "Now you have to be quiet and on your da-da-da-da-da," and I think, yeah, I'm not going to get any laughs out of this group. They're going to be sitting there, terrified.
Yeah, especially with the preppies, like I like really on to give preppies opportunities to be loud. Yeah, so I think you've got to do that. You've got to go. And last thing I'll say is the first thing that I say when I go to school visit is, I am not a teacher.
Yeah.
And you almost see them go, because, and I say, if you learn something, it's by accident. I didn't mean it. And you just, for the older grades, you can kind of see them go, oh, okay, so, and nothing, that's not meant to be bad against teachers, but it's acknowledging that I am not your teacher. I'm not here to mark you. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not doing any assessment on you. I'm here because, this is meant to be fun and enjoyable. And hopefully I haven't offended any teachers by saying that, but it helps just kind of set the room that this is something that's outside of every day, and it should be fun, and it should be exciting, and just chill, just relax. You're meant to have fun.
Absolutely. And that takes that idea of sort of perfection out of it as well. If kids worrying they have to write an amazing story or draw an amazing picture, whatever it is, it takes that out of it. It's like, just have fun with it. If it works, awesome. If it doesn't, and even you saying that, they will totally learn stuff. Like you just talking about your tips, they're going to learn stuff, but you're right. It's almost learning without learning with, or accidental learning. Yeah. Which is great.
Yeah. So much fun. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Wallace.
Thank you, Mrs. Worthington.
And I will see you next week.
That's good. Talk to you then.